The fluorescent glow of Mark's laptop screen painted his face in sickly green and blue. Empty ramen containers formed a precarious tower beside his keyboard, testament to a week fueled by instant noodles and caffeine. He scrolled, thumb worn smooth against the trackpad, past ads for mismatched cutlery and a collection of Beanie Babies. His eyes ached. His dorm room, a cramped box barely large enough for his twin bed and a desk, cried out for a sofa, a real sofa, not the beanbag his roommate swore was vintage. Another man's trash, right? He muttered, mostly to himself, a half-eaten granola bar crumbling onto his worn jeans. Then an ad appeared. Free sofa must pick up tonight. No photo. Just those stark words, followed by a jumble of letters and numbers that looked like an address, but not quite. The description, a chaotic string of capitalized words and missing punctuation, scream scam or drunk posting sofa. Tone IHTFR don't do I hear you say. A prickle of unease ran down his spine. Too good to be true always, yet the sheer oddity of it snagged his attention. A free sofa. Tonight. His current budget for furniture hovered at zero. He clicked the link, a faint whir from his laptop fan, the only sound in the quiet room. The page loaded, just the text, no images. No contact number, just the address. A shiver, not from the draft from his cracked window, traced its way up his neck. What's the worst that could happen? He mumbled, already pulling on his battered sneakers. He grabbed his keys, the weight of his old truck's fob a familiar comfort in his palm. The address led him to the older part of town, where forgotten Victorians sagged under the weight of overgrown vines and peeling paint. Streetlights, sparse and flickering, cast long, distorted shadows. He slowed, the truck's engine rumbling a low protest, scanning house numbers. The address on the screen matched the one before him. A 2-story house, its once grand facade now a patchwork of missing shingles and boarded-up windows. The porch sagged, a skeletal grin of broken wood. No lights glowed from within. No car sat in the driveway. The lawn, a tangled wilderness, swallowed the cracked concrete path. Seriously, he breathed, his voice a whisper in the sudden quiet. He killed the engine. The silence pressed in, heavy and thick. A faint breeze rustled dead leaves in the gutters, a dry, papery whisper. He checked his phone, the screen a small, bright rectangle in the encroaching gloom. No signal. Of course, the front door stood ajar, a dark mouth yawning into the inky blackness beyond. A sliver of curiosity, stronger than his growing apprehension, tugged him forward. He pushed the door open wider, the groan of protesting hinges echoing in the stillness. A gust of cold, musty air, smelling of damp earth and forgotten things, washed over him. "Hello!" His voice sounded thin, swallowed by the vast emptiness inside. The entryway was dark, a staircase curving upwards into an inky void. Dust motes danced in the faint light filtering through a grimy window pane. To his left, a large room stretched out, barely visible in the gloom. And there it was, a sofa, a hulking, dark shape draped in a thick shroud of dust, sitting incongruously in the middle of the room. It looked like a relic from another era, its velvet upholstery faded to a murky green. He stepped inside, his boots scuffing on the gritty floorboards. The air grew colder, a bone, deep chill that seeped into his clothes. He walked around the sofa, his hand reaching out to brush away some of the dust. A cloud of fine particles rose, catching in the sliver of light from the doorway. He coughed, the sound rattling in the silence. "Heavy, huh?" he muttered, crouching down to get a better grip. He braced his legs, grunting with effort as he tried to lift one end. The sofa didn't budge. It felt rooted to the floor, an immovable object. A sound, faint but distinct, drifted from upstairs, a creak, then another, footsteps, light, rhythmic, like someone pacing. Mark froze, his hands still gripping the dusty armrest. His breath hitched. He wasn't alone. "Hello," he called out again, his voice firmer this time, but still laced with uncertainty. The footsteps stopped. The silence returned, deeper, more oppressive than before. His heart hammered against his ribs. He strained his ears. listening. Nothing. Just the frantic beat of his own pulse. Then a sudden rush. The footsteps resumed faster now, a frantic scramble overhead. They pounded across the floorboards, growing louder, closer, heading towards the top of the stairs. Panic, cold and sharp, clawed at his throat. He backed away from the sofa, his eyes fixed on the dark opening above the staircase. A shadow appeared at the top. A tall, impossibly thin figure. It stood silhouetted against the faint light from a distant window, its outline wavering, indistinct. It had no face, just a smooth, featureless expanse where eyes and nose and mouth should be. A strangled cry escaped Mark's lips. The Craigslist ad. The free sofa. It wasn't bait for furniture. It was bait for him. He turned, scrambling towards the open door, his mind screaming. His hand fumbled for the door knob, slick with sweat. He yanked, but the door wouldn't budge. It was stuck, or locked. He pulled again harder, his muscles screaming. The wood groaned, but held firm. Behind him a low, guttural sound, like stones grinding together, filled the air. He didn't dare look back. He shoved against the door with his shoulder, grunting with desperate effort. It remained stubbornly shut. A cold breath, smelling of decay and damp earth, brushed against his neck. The air grew heavy, thick with an unseen presence. He felt a light feather, like touch on his shoulder, then a sudden, sharp pressure. He cried out, spinning around. The faceless figure stood inches from him, its featureless head tilted. It wasn't wearing clothes, not really. Its form was wrapped in swirling shadows that shifted and coalesced, like smoke given form. Its arms, long and slender, ended in hands that were more like bundles of gnarled roots. What are you?" Mark gasped, stumbling backward, tripping over his own feet. He fell, landing hard on the dusty floorboards. The figure glided closer, its movements eerily silent, like a ripple in dark water. A low, resonant hum vibrated through the floor, through his bones. It wasn't a sound made by vocal cords. It was a vibration, a frequency that resonated with fear. "You came." The hum intensified, the words forming not from a mouth, but from the very air around the entity. It was a raw, primal sound, devoid of human inflection. We waited. Mark scrambled backward, his eyes darting wildly around the room. The windows. They were all boarded up from the outside. No escape. He was trapped. "What do you want?" He tried to sound brave, but his voice cracked, a pathetic squeak. The faceless figure paused, its head tilting again, as if considering. The swirling shadows around it seemed to deepen, becoming more opaque. Company. The hum pulsed an invisible beat. Always company. It extended a root like hand towards him. Mark recoiled, scrambling to his feet. He had to fight. He had to run. He scanned the room, desperate. A heavy, antique-looking lamp sat on a small table near the sofa. He lunged for it, his fingers closing around the cold metal base. He swung it, a clumsy, desperate arc, aiming for the featureless head. The lamp passed right through the entity. No resistance. No impact. Just a ripple in the shadowy form. Mark stared, horrified, as the figure reformed, unharmed. The hum intensified, a low, pleased thrum. Clever, like the others. Others. Mark whispered, his blood turning to ice. "There are others." The faceless figure extended its hand again, slowly, deliberately. This time, a faint, sickly green light pulsed from its fingertips. As the light reached him, Mark felt a profound chill seeping into his very core. Not just cold, but a draining sensation, as if his very life force was being siphoned away. His vision blurred. He felt dizzy, weak. Join them. The hum resonated closer now, filling his head. Be part of the house. He stumbled, falling to his knees. The green light enveloped him, a chilling embrace. Memories, vivid and sharp, flashed through his mind: his mother's smile, the taste of his favorite pizza, the roar of the crowd at a football game. They felt distant, like memories of someone else's life. His own life felt like it was slipping away. He fought a desperate, primal struggle. He pushed back against the draining sensation, clawing at the invisible tendrils that sought to pull him under. He remembered the feeling of the sun on his face, the sound of laughter, the warmth of human touch. He wouldn't let go. Not yet. No! He screamed, a raw, guttural sound ripped from his chest. He closed his eyes, clenching his fists, summoning every ounce of his dwindling strength. He pictured his dorm room, small and messy, but his. He pictured the future, the life he still wanted to live. A sudden, sharp pain flared in his chest, then his head. It felt like an invisible force was trying to tear him apart, to stretch him thin. The green light pulsed, brighter, more insistent. He felt himself shrinking, solidifying, becoming something less than himself. Then, a new sensation, a faint, almost imperceptible warmth. A whisper, not from the entity, but from somewhere deep within the house itself. Fight. Mark opened his eyes. The faceless figure still loomed over him, its shadowy form unwavering. But something was different. The draining sensation had lessened ever so slightly. He felt a flicker of defiance, a tiny spark in the vast emptiness. He pushed back, not with physical strength, but with sheer will. He imagined a wall, solid and unyielding, rising within him, blocking the entity's insidious touch. The hum intensified, a frustrated whine. The shadows around the figure writhed, agitated. Resist futile. The hum grated, a discordant chord. "Not if I don't give up," Mark gasped, his voice hoarse. He remembered the old lamp, the one he'd tried to hit it with. It lay on the floor, useless. But what about the sofa? The free sofa! It was heavy, immovable. An idea, desperate and absurd, sparked in his mind. The sofa, it was the bait. What if it was also the anchor? He lunged, not at the entity, but towards the sofa. The faceless figure seemed momentarily confused by his change of target. Mark scrambled to his feet, his hands reaching for the dusty, velvet armrest. He wrapped his arms around it, pressing his body against the cold, unyielding fabric. The hum rose to a shriek, a sound that vibrated through the very foundations of the house. The faceless figure lunged, its shadowy form stretching, reaching for him. The green light pulsed violently, its tendrils lashing out. "Foolish boy!" the hum screamed, a cacophony of sound. "Cannot escape!" Mark held on, his knuckles white, his teeth gritted. The sofa felt like an anchor in a storm, a solid point in a swirling chaos. He focused on it, on its weight, its dust, its old, musty smell. He poured his will into it, imagining himself merging with its density, becoming as unmovable as it was. The entity's touch found him again, but this time it met resistance. The green light flickered, struggling to penetrate the strange shield he had created. He felt the drain, but it was less potent, less absolute. He was still losing ground, but at a slower pace. Then the house groaned. Not the usual creak of old wood, but a deeper, more resonant sound, like the earth itself sighing. A faint, almost imperceptible tremor ran through the floorboards. The faceless figure paused, its shadowy form wavering. The hum faltered, a broken note. "What is this?" The entity pulsed, a note of confusion in its inhuman voice. Mark didn't know. He just held on, his face buried in the dusty sofa, his body pressed against its solid form. He heard a faint click, then another and another. From the walls, from the floor, like tiny, dry bones shifting. The shadows around the faceless figure began to thin, to dissipate. The green light flickered, then dimmed. The entity writhed, its form losing cohesion, like smoke caught in a sudden breeze.
"No, not again!"
The hum shrieked, a desperate, fading wail.
"This is mine!"
The house groaned again, louder this time, a deep, resonant growl that seemed to come from its very foundations. The floorboards beneath Mark's hands vibrated. Dust rained down from the ceiling. A chill wind, smelling of ozone and ancient stone, swept through the room, though all the windows were sealed. The faceless figure screamed, a sound that was less a scream and more a tearing of reality. Its shadowy form stretched, thinned, then snapped like a taut string. It dissolved, not into nothingness, but into a swirling vortex of dark particles that were sucked, as if by an invisible vacuum, into the very walls of the house. Silence. Absolute, profound silence. The only sound was Mark's rag breathing, echoing in the suddenly still room. The air, though still cold, felt lighter, less oppressive. The oppressive weight had lifted. He slowly, cautiously, lifted his head from the sofa. The room was dark, but no longer filled with the terrifying presence. The green light was gone. The shadows were just shadows. He pushed himself away from the sofa, his limbs trembling, weak. He looked at the couch, its dusty, faded form now just an old piece of furniture. A free sofa. He pushed himself up, leaning against the wall, trying to catch his breath. His heart still pounded, but it was a human rhythm now, not the frantic beat of pure terror. He felt drained, exhausted, as if he had run a marathon. He stumbled towards the front door. He reached for the doorknob. His hand shaking, he turned it. It clicked. The door swung open, easily, silently. He stepped out onto the porch, breathing in the cool night air. It tasted clean, fresh, devoid of the musty decay that had filled the house. He looked back at the gaping maw of the doorway. The house stood silent, dark, a forgotten monument. He walked to his truck, his legs feeling like jelly. He fumbled with his keys, finally managing to insert it into the ignition. The engine coughed to life, a comforting roar in the quiet night. He put the truck in reverse, his eyes fixed on the house in his rearview mirror. As he drove away, he glanced back one last time. The house was a dark silhouette against the faint glow of the distant town. But as he watched, a flicker of light, faint and quick, seemed to wink from an upstairs window. Then it was gone. He drove, not caring where, just away.
The free sofa ad.
The trap. He had escaped, but the memory of the faceless figure, the cold, the hum, the sensation of his life draining away, it would stay with him. He gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles white. He would never look at a Craigslist ad the same way again. He would never look at a free sofa, or an abandoned house, or even the shadows in his own room the same way again. He drove until the first hint of dawn painted the sky in pale oranges and purples. He found a small diner, its neon sign buzzing faintly. He ordered coffee, black and strong, and a stack of pancakes. As he ate, the warmth of the mug in his hands, the mundane clatter of plates in the diner, the smell of frying bacon, it all felt intensely real, intensely precious. He was alive. He had fought, and he had won. But the silence of the abandoned house and the memory of the faceless horror within would forever be etched into his mind. He would never forget the night he almost became part of the house, and he would definitely never look for free furniture online again.